This is an excellent part on page 55 about how people get into mass movements. He says that the technique of a mass movement aims to infect people with a malady and then offer the movement as a cure. An effective mass movement cultivates the idea of sin. It depicts the autonomous self not only as barren and helpless, but also as vile. To confess and repent is to slog off one's individual distinctiveness and separateness, and salvation is found by losing control, by losing oneself in the holy oneness of the congregation. So I think this is a perfect example of, I think, environmentalism, how they do this. They tell you that the human race is too materialistic, that you have too many things, that you live too richly, that you have a carbon footprint. That's their sin. That's why environmentalism is often called a religion. And it used to be a religion. It was, worship of Gaia, right? They have a phrase like carbon footprint that is exactly the same phrase as sin in religion. And essentially, they also believe the human is vile. The human being is consuming and wasting and far beyond what an animal does. They think that people, human beings, should live like animals in the sense that they don't, that they have their carrying capacity is as far as they go in the environment. They can't go beyond that. They have to live in symbiosis with the environment and not exploit it and not go beyond it. And that is what they do. That's what environmentalists do to get people to join their movement is they say this to them and they say that if you join us and you help us out and plant trees and whatever I don't even think they plant trees anymore. Other people plant trees, but environmentalists don't. Then they believe that they're living as a symbiotic person now, and they're not a drain on the earth, and they're not polluting. And I remember all kinds of cartoons when I was a kid that had that propaganda in it. Like, for example, Captain Planet. Look up Captain Planet. It was a TV show in the 80s. That was an environmentalist propaganda, which, of course, I had no idea at the time. But looking back on it, also the Smoggies, that's another propaganda TV show about environmentalism. And the evil industrialist is just polluting for no reason. And he just loves polluting. Like, that's what apparently people who own factories or businesses, they just love polluting. So that is just ridiculous propaganda back then. But that's what it's about. It's about living within your means, that we as human beings should be living in basically poverty, because to go beyond that would be exploiting the earth or raping the earth. There's all kinds of bombastic phrases like that put in there too. And what's hilarious about the whole thing, just like the proponents of communism, which was satirized in George Orwell's Animal Farm, it's the same with the environmentalists. The leaders are always hypocrites. So you have people like Al Gore, with a millionaire who's actually made money off the environmentalist movement, and he has how many houses, how many cottages, what's his house, what are his houses worth? He living within his means? Is he environmentalists who fly planes to their conferences instead of meeting online? They're giant hypocrites, and that's one of the reasons why it's so stupid. In Canada, the big environmentalist dork up here his name is David Suzuki. Same thing, just like Al Gore in the States. He talks his usual rhetoric and then lives in $1 million houses. I don't, in terms of environmentalists, I don't respect nor consider their opinions if they have a higher carbon footprint than me. And that basically throws out people like Suzuki. They're just hypocrites and idiots. But of course, they want you to join their movement and they want your money. And another example, I mentioned carbon footprint, also carbon taxes. Carbon taxes, and what was the other one? Carbon credits. That's the other one. Carbon credits. That sounds like indulgences from the Catholic Church, right? These are what corporations use to purchase to offset their carbon, and they can trade them, and it's all just more nonsense, right? And then even if you ask them, well, if it's just about the carbon, shouldn't you all be for nuclear power plants? Oh no, it's not just about the carbon. It's just an anti-materialist, and it's just reducing consumption and living in poverty. And they're all Malthusians. They all also believe that human population is too great, and that came out of Malthus. So Again, that all of this compacts into the environmentalist movement where people join it, feel superior and feel righteous because they believe that they're living within their means. They're living as a human is supposed to live. Notice the religious connotations here. They have an ideal person in mind, right? How you're supposed to live on this earth and not consume too much and whatever. And then, of course, once they're in the movement, they can point the fingers at other people and say, look at these people, look at their consumerist culture, blah, 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 hatred, vile, poison coming out of their mouth, right? And how do they feel? They feel righteous. It's a religion. This is a perfect example of what Hoffer explains, that a mass movement condemns outsiders as sinful, and then for an environmentalist, that's carbon footprint, that's, etc. And the people inside the movement are the virtuous, are the righteous.